What's up, everybody? Pastor Matt here. Thanks for checking into my YouTube channel. Did you know that it is okay to read great, tiny, tiny little books? Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's a ton of them out there, and I'm going to recommend a bunch of them to you in this short video. Well, my name's Matt. I'm the pastor of Gospel Fellowship PCA. We're a Reformed church just north of Pittsburgh. If you're in the area and you're looking for a church that loves Jesus, believes the Bible is true, and cares about reaching the world with the gospel, come visit us. Gospel Fellowship PCA, just north of Pittsburgh. Well, about a month or so ago, I think it was, I did a video called Read More Efficiently. And in that video, what I suggested is that it's better to go ahead and just read super duper slow and make progress through some of the great books of all time, than it is to read a bunch of the books in the best-selling list and, maybe you read 20 of those. But what do you get out of it? Better to read one great book than many, ones that are going to be forgotten by next year. Well, in this video, I want to suggest something else about reading, and that is that some of the great, all-time, wonderful, beautiful, classic, important books are actually really, really tiny ones. And so I'm going to give you about 10 of them today that I think would be awesome if you were to consider. And then what I'll do is I'll post a link in the description of this video to every single one of these, assuming I can find the right link. And then you can go grab them either for yourself in paper form or perhaps digitally. So let me give you about 10 of them here. The first one I want to talk about is this little guy right here. This is the Heidelberg Catechism. Now you're going to notice right away that this is tiny, right? I mean, this is smaller than my hand. It's thinner than a pencil. And my definition of a small book in this video is going to be something that you can read in just one sitting, okay? Just one sitting. If it takes longer than you sitting down one time to read it, I'm not going to count that as a tiny book. Now, the Heidelberg Catechism is a great, great little book. It's actually a catechism. It comes in the form of questions and answers. And it was written back in 1563 as an attempt to bring some unity between the Reformed and the Lutheran movements of the Protestant faith. And the authors of the Heidelberg Catechism got it exactly right, in my view, when it comes to the balance between personal devotion and right theology. Sometimes great theology isn't necessarily devotional, and sometimes a lot of what's devotional is not necessarily great theology. But the Heidelberg Catechism is beautiful. It's perfectly, personally succinct. I'm not saying perfect like it, inspired like the scriptures, but man, is this a good, helpful digest of basic Christian doctrine. So there's that. Second one I'm going to mention, and I don't have hard copies of all these, but I want to mention a little book called A Simple Way to Pray by Martin Luther. Now, obviously, you know Luther. He's the great reformer of Germany, the guy who posted the 95 Theses on the Wittenberg door. Well, one time, Luther's barber asked him how to pray, and Luther wrote a short tract. You could probably read it in maybe 20 minutes or so on how to pray, written in a basic level of language, no technical terms whatsoever. And basically, Luther tells his barber, just pray through the Lord's Prayer, the 10 Commandments, and the Apostles' Creed, and you're going to be okay. And you can get that book on Amazon. I think it's free. If not, you can find it digitally elsewhere. But what a great classic, and what a short, beautiful, helpful work on prayer. All right, the next one I'm going to mention, since we're on the topic of Martin Luther, is the 95 Theses. I mean, think about this. Look how small this book is here. This book is about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch thick. And you could read the 95 Theses right online, or you could get a little paperback booklet like this guy. But you can read the tract that changed the world. And we can say that pretty honestly, that the 95 Theses are the documents of declaration that sparked the Protestant Reformation. And you can read it. You can read it in about 15 to 20 minutes. And maybe there's something in there that'll change your life, like it changed the whole trajectory of the church. Here's another one. I don't have this one either in my hands right now, but there's a little book called A Defense of Calvinism by Charles Spurgeon. Now, all transparency here, I'm a Calvinist. I am a pastor of a Presbyterian church. We confess the Westminster Confession of Faith. I think you probably know that if you've been watching my channel for some time here. But Spurgeon wasn't a Presbyterian, but he did defend Calvinism in a beautiful little book, tiny little book called A Defense of Calvinism. And Spurgeon very winsomely and very biblically just goes through the main 5 points, or the tulip points of Calvinism. I think you'll enjoy it. If you're not a Calvinist, give it a fair shot. If you are, it's a very winsome defense of our doctrine as Calvinistic or Reformed Christians. Here's another one. Now, you probably know that I'm a Jonathan Edwards scholar, that I devote a lot of my time to reading and writing about Jonathan Edwards. And here's a little booklet right here called The Resolutions and Advice to Young Converts, right there. Now, you can get this stuff online too, but you might want to have it in a paperback form, and I'll post a link to that one. But the resolutions are Jonathan Edwards' 70 life guidelines that he wrote for himself when he was 19 years old. Super short. You could read this in less than 10 minutes. And at least in this printed copy, it comes with another letter called Advice to a Young Convert, which Edwards wrote to a young woman who was asking for some basic guidance in the Christian faith. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. By the way, this is a bit of a commercial. My newest book coming out next year, 2021, is on Jonathan Edwards' resolutions through Hendrickson Publications, so be looking forward to that in the near future. Here's an essay. Now, this isn't quite so historical as some of the other ones that I'm mentioning, but my professor, John Frame from Reformed Theological Seminary, he wrote a pretty important essay a while back called Machen's Warrior Children. One of the most talked about essays, or short treatises, very short treatises, written in the last 25 years or so, very significant. And Frame goes through many of the controversies within the Reformed Church over the past half century or so, and maybe up to a century. But Frame is arguing for unity within and between the Reformed churches in this article. He says that we get a little bit combative from time to time, and certainly we can be blamed for that. And I think it's a very helpful essay. Machen's Warrior Children by John Frame. I'm sure you can find that for free online. Next one I want to mention is another rather contemporary book, and it's another one that's quite short. This one is called Don't Waste Your Cancer by John Piper, and you can see how tiny this is. This is probably the shortest one of all that I'm going to mention at just a few pages. But I think this is a very helpful book for people that are struggling with cancer, and it's something that can be read in about 5 minutes. So that's about as short as it's going to get. But I think some of the lessons that Piper mentions in that book are really, really profound and definitely worth your time to consider. Here's another one that I don't have a copy of. This is going to be the only work of fiction that I'm recommending in this short video series today. The Minister's Black Veil by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's a short story, and I have to confess, I really love it. It's mysterious, it's strange, it's dark. It's about a pastor in a local church during the colonial times who one day shows up to church with a black veil over his face, and he never takes it off again. And the mystery of the story is, why is he wearing this dark veil over his face? What is the significance? Why is he doing this? It's very weird, very interesting, and I think a really cool short story. And you could probably read that one in about half an hour to 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Next, and we're going to do a couple more here. This one is actually a letter. You can get this little tract. It's called George Whitfield's Letter to Wesley on Election. Now, you may know this historic curiosity that the Wesley brothers, John and Charles Wesley, were really good friends with George Whitfield. In fact, they were part of a Bible study group back in England back in the day. Both of them significant here in this country too, in America. Both of them with roles in the Great Awakening. Whitfield as the great preacher, the Wesley brothers as the founders of Methodism. But did you know that they had a falling out over the doctrine of predestination or election? That's right. Whitfield was a strong predestinarian Calvinist, and the Wesley brothers not so much. And in this short letter, Whitfield writes a letter to the Wesleys to try to bring some clarity to the issue. I think you'll really appreciate the letter. Final one I want to mention, this one is called John Calvin on Prayer, and this comes from the Institutes of the Christian Religion. This is a little tractlet out of the Institutes. Of course, the Institutes is a great big book, but whoever said you have to read all of it? You can read certain chapters or even sections of the Institutes to great benefit and to great help to your soul. So I'm going to recommend that you read the section on prayer, and I'll try to provide a link for that in the description below as well. All right, well, thanks for checking into this short video. I just recommended 10 super short, very important books that you can read, probably to the benefit of your soul. And again, links in the description. Thanks for checking in. Do love you lots, and we'll talk to you later.